Long ago, in a world where myth and history intertwined, a book was written that promised to unveil the very secrets of the stars and the hidden depths of the human soul. This collection of writings, known today as the Corpus Hermeticum, was said to hold the key to understanding the universe in a profound and personal way. It was not a book of simple stories or historical records. Instead, it was a guide, a map to a higher state of being, whispered from a teacher to a student. Imagine the sands of Egypt under the rule of the Roman Empire, a melting pot of ancient faiths and new philosophies. It was here nearly 2,000 years ago that these powerful ideas were first set down, creating a legacy that would echo through the corridors of time. The origins of this mysterious book are as fascinating as its contents. It emerged from a unique fusion of cultures, blending the profound wisdom of ancient Egypt with the philosophical rigor of Greece. The texts were written in Greek, yet they spoke of gods and concepts that had been revered along the Nile for millennia. This was a time of great spiritual seeking when people from all walks of life were looking for answers to life's biggest questions. Who are we? Why are we here? And what is our connection to the vast cosmos that stretches out above us? The Corpus Hermeticum offered a direct and compelling response, suggesting that the universe was not a cold, empty place but a living, divine entity with which humanity was intimately connected. This collection of texts is presented not as a dry philosophical treatise, but as a series of 17 intimate conversations. These dialogues unfold between a divine teacher, the legendary Hermes Trismegistus, and his eager disciples. The name Hermes Trismegistus, meaning thrice greatest Hermes, itself reveals the book's blended heritage. He was seen as a combination of the Greek god Hermes, the messenger of the gods, and the Egyptian god Thoth, the deity of wisdom, writing, and magic. This figure represented the ultimate source of all knowledge, both earthly and divine. The dialogues invite the reader to sit in on these sacred lessons, to become a student of the cosmos alongside the original followers. The allure of the Corpus Hermeticum, then and now, lies in its promise of revelation. It suggests that true wisdom is not something to be imposed from the outside by an institution, but something to be awakened from within. It speaks to a deep human desire to find meaning and connection in a world that can often feel chaotic and random. The book proposed that by understanding the fundamental laws of reality, one could not only navigate life more effectively, but also achieve a form of spiritual salvation. This was a radical and empowering idea, offering a personal path to enlightenment that has captivated mystics, scholars, and seekers for centuries, inviting them to unlock the secrets it holds. What kind of secrets did this ancient book promise to reveal? The Corpus Hermeticum was not concerned with mundane matters or the politics of its day. Its focus was squarely on the eternal, the divine, and the transformative. It offered a vision where the universe is a single, unified whole, and everything within it, from the smallest grain of sand to the most distant star, is part of a divine mind. The book taught that by understanding this unity, a person could transcend their ordinary limitations and experience a profound sense of oneness with all of creation. It was a promise of gnosis, a direct intuitive knowledge of the divine, that could fundamentally change one's perception of reality and one's place within it. In this introduction, we will embark on a journey to explore this remarkable text. We will travel back in time to the world in which it was born, a vibrant landscape of Egyptian temples, Greek academies, and Roman cities. We will examine the core teachings that have inspired so many, from the famous maxim, "as above, so below," to the powerful idea that our minds shape our reality. The journey of the Corpus Hermeticum is a story of survival against the odds. We will trace how this collection of writings was lost to the Western world for more than 1,000 years, preserved only in hidden libraries, before its dramatic rediscovery during the Renaissance sparked a revolution in European thought. This exploration will also delve into the incredible influence the book has had over the centuries. We will see how its ideas fueled the passions of alchemists searching for the philosopher's stone, inspired the groundbreaking work of early astronomers who were mapping the heavens, and became a cornerstone for esoteric groups like the Freemasons. Its influence did not stop in the past. We will discover how its core concepts continue to appear in modern spirituality, New Age thought, and even popular culture, proving the timeless power of its message. The story of the Corpus Hermeticum is a testament to how ancient wisdom can endure, adapt, and find new relevance in a constantly changing world. Finally, we will separate fact from fiction. The book has been surrounded by myths, with some claiming it is the last relic of Atlantis, or a text of unimaginable antiquity. We will look at what modern scholarship tells us about its true origins and authors, while still honoring the profound spiritual inspiration it has provided to countless readers. This essay will serve as your guide, unlocking the history, the teachings, and the enduring legacy of the Corpus Hermeticum. At its heart, the Corpus Hermeticum is not a single book with one continuous story. Instead, it is a collection of 17 short, independent treatises or talks. These texts are written in a very specific format. They are presented as dialogues, like intimate chats between a wise teacher and an earnest student. This style makes the profound ideas feel personal and accessible, as if the reader is being invited to sit in on a sacred lesson. The conversations explore the biggest questions imaginable. They discuss the nature of God, the creation of the universe, the purpose of humanity, and the path to spiritual awakening. It feels less like reading a dense philosophical work, and more like listening to a master share his wisdom directly with you. The teacher in these dialogues is a truly fascinating figure named Hermes Trismegistus. His name, which means thrice greatest Hermes, immediately signals that he is no ordinary instructor. He is portrayed as a divine being, a master of all arts and sciences, who possesses a complete understanding of the cosmos. This legendary sage is a fusion of two powerful deities from two different cultures. He combines the characteristics of the Greek god Hermes, who was the swift messenger of the gods and the patron of communication and boundaries, with the ancient Egyptian god Thoth. Thoth was the ibis-headed god of wisdom, writing, magic, and the moon, credited by the Egyptians with inventing writing and serving as the scribe of the gods. This blending of gods is crucial to understanding the Corpus Hermeticum. It shows that the book was born from a world where different cultures were mixing their beliefs in exciting new ways. The figure of Hermes Trismegistus became a symbol for a universal, all-encompassing wisdom that transcended the boundaries of any single religion or nation. He was seen as the original source of all knowledge, a primal teacher who had guided humanity from the very beginning. The dialogues, therefore, were considered to be a direct transmission of this ancient divine wisdom, passed down through the ages for those who were ready to receive it and embark on a journey of inner transformation. The students in these conversations, such as Asclepius and Tat, are just as important as the teacher. They represent humanity's own search for truth. They ask the questions that we ourselves might ask if we could speak with a divine being. They express confusion, they seek clarification, and they show a deep yearning to understand their place in the universe. Through their interactions with Hermes, the path to enlightenment is slowly revealed. The teacher guides them step by step from a state of ignorance to one of gnosis, or direct spiritual knowledge. This teacher-student framework makes the Corpus Hermeticum a practical guide to spiritual development, not just a collection of abstract ideas. The Corpus Hermeticum was first written down in Greek, sometime between the year 100 and 300 CE. This was a remarkable period in history. The Roman Empire controlled a vast territory that included both Greece and Egypt. This created an environment where ideas, philosophies, and religious beliefs could travel and mingle as never before. In cities like Alexandria in Egypt, a vibrant intellectual melting pot was formed. Here, the ancient mystical traditions of the Egyptian temples met the logical and philosophical inquiries of the Greek academies. The result was a powerful synthesis, a new way of looking at the world that combined the spiritual depth of the East with the rational clarity of the West. These texts are a perfect product of their time. While the language is Greek, the soul of the work feels deeply connected to the ancient wisdom of Egypt. For thousands of years, Egyptian religion had taught that the universe was alive with divine forces and that the human soul could journey through the afterlife to unite with the gods. The Corpus Hermeticum takes these ancient Egyptian ideas and rephrases them using the language and concepts of Greek philosophy, particularly the ideas of Plato and the Stoics. This made the profound mysticism of Egypt understandable and appealing to people across the Roman Empire who were educated in Greek thought. It was a bridge between two powerful ancient cultures. The cultural setting was one of great spiritual hunger. The old state religions of Rome were losing their hold on people's hearts and minds. Many individuals were searching for a more personal and meaningful connection to the divine. This led to the rise of various mystery schools and philosophical movements that promised secret knowledge and a path to personal salvation. The Hermetic teachings fit perfectly into this landscape. They offered a direct personal relationship with God, one that did not necessarily require priests or large public temples. It was a private journey of the soul guided by the written words of a divine teacher, which was a very appealing concept for many seekers. It is important to understand that the Corpus Hermeticum was not the official book of any single organized religion. Rather, it was a collection of writings used by small, informal groups of people who shared a common spiritual interest. These were not public texts meant for the masses. They were intended for those who had been initiated into a certain way of thinking, for students who were ready to look beyond the surface of reality and explore its hidden spiritual dimensions. The texts were part of a wider stream of literature known as Hermetica, all attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, which covered topics ranging from alchemy and astrology to magic and medicine, all seen as paths to understanding the divine cosmos. Who actually wrote the Corpus Hermeticum? For centuries, believers thought it was the work of a single ancient Egyptian sage, Hermes Trismegistus himself, who lived long before even Moses. They saw the texts as a pure distillation of primeval wisdom. However, modern historical analysis tells a different story. Scholars now agree that the book was not written by one person, but by several different anonymous authors. These writers were likely Greek-speaking Egyptians who lived and worked during the Roman period. They were not trying to deceive people, rather they were following a common practice of the time by attributing their work to a legendary, godlike figure to give it greater authority. By writing under the name of Hermes Trismegistus, the authors were tapping into a powerful tradition. They were signaling to their readers that the ideas contained within their writings were not new inventions, but were part of an ancient and sacred lineage of wisdom. They were essentially saying, this is not just our opinion. This is the timeless truth as first revealed by the great teacher of humanity. This gave the texts a sense of profound legitimacy and spiritual weight. It placed them in the same category as other sacred scriptures, presenting them as a direct revelation from a divine source, intended to guide the soul back to its origin in the universal mind or God. The message these authors conveyed was both simple and revolutionary. They taught that the physical world we see is only one part of a much larger, spiritual reality. They argued that the human being is a microcosm, a small-scale model of the entire universe or macrocosm. This means that by looking deep within ourselves, we can come to understand the entire cosmos. The key to this understanding was the human mind, or nous. For the Hermetic writers, the mind was not just a tool for thinking, it was a spark of the divine consciousness itself, trapped within the physical body. The ultimate goal of life was to awaken this divine mind. This awakening, or gnosis, was the central promise of the Corpus Hermeticum. The dialogues teach that through contemplation, self-reflection and understanding the true nature of reality, a person could purify their soul and ascend through the celestial spheres. This journey would ultimately lead to a reunion with the Supreme God, a state of blissful immortality and enlightenment. It was a message of incredible hope and empowerment. It told individuals that they held the key to their own salvation within their own minds. They did not need to wait for an afterlife. They could begin the journey of spiritual liberation right here and now by learning the secrets of the cosmos and of the self. Perhaps the most famous and enduring idea from the entire body of Hermetic wisdom is the principle of correspondence, famously summarized in the phrase, "as above, so below." This elegant and profound axiom suggests that there is a fundamental symmetry between different levels of reality. The vast, sprawling cosmos, or the macrocosm, operates according to the same principles as the individual human being, the microcosm. This means that the patterns we see in the heavens, the movements of the planets, the cycles of the stars, and the grand architecture of the galaxies are mirrored within our own bodies, minds, and souls. It's a powerful statement about the unity of all creation, suggesting that nothing is truly separate or isolated. Everything is interconnected in a magnificent cosmic dance. This concept invites us to see the universe not as a collection of disparate objects, but as a single, living organism. Just as every cell in our body contains the complete DNA blueprint for the entire person, every part of the cosmos contains the pattern of the whole. Understanding this principle was central to the Hermetic path. It meant that by studying oneself, one could understand the universe. And conversely, by observing the natural world and the heavens, one could gain deep insights into the workings of one's own inner being. This idea transformed the act of observation into a spiritual practice. Astronomy became a way to understand the soul, and self-reflection became a way to comprehend the mind of God. The implications of as above, so below are vast and transformative. It breaks down the artificial barrier between the spiritual and the material, the sacred and the mundane. The physical world is no longer seen as a fallen or lesser reality, but as a perfect reflection of a divine pattern. Every mountain, river, and creature becomes a sacred text, waiting to be read by those with eyes to see. This perspective empowered the Hermetic seeker, who learned to find divinity not just in temples or holy books, but in the flight of a bird, the structure of a crystal, or the rising of the sun. The universe itself becomes the ultimate teacher, constantly revealing its secrets to the attentive observer. This principle became a cornerstone for many esoteric traditions that followed. Alchemists, for instance, believed that the processes of purifying metals in their laboratories mirrored the process of purifying the human soul. They were working on both the below, the physical materials, and the above, the spiritual self, at the same time. Early astronomers and physicians also felt the influence of this idea, believing that the positions of the planets could affect health and human destiny because of this sympathetic connection. The idea that we are a small-scale model of the universe is a radical call to see our lives as deeply meaningful and woven into the very fabric of existence. A second monumental idea presented in the Corpus Hermeticum is the teaching that the universe is fundamentally mental in its nature. The texts declare that underlying all of physical reality is a single universal consciousness, which is referred to as the all or mind, nous. This is a startling and profound concept. It suggests that the cosmos is not a mindless machine made of dead matter, but is instead a vast living thought in the mind of God. Everything we see and experience, the earth, the stars, our own bodies, and our very thoughts, are all part of this immense mental creation. The universe in its essence is a product of divine imagination, and we are living within that divine dream. This teaching completely reorients our understanding of what is real. If the foundation of existence is mind, then thoughts are not just fleeting, insubstantial things. Instead, thoughts are the real building blocks of the universe. The physical world, in this view, is a lower vibration or denser manifestation of thought. This principle implies that our own minds, being a part of the universal mind, possess a creative power that we often fail to recognize. The Hermetic dialogues teach that what we hold in our consciousness has a direct and powerful effect on the world we experience. Our perception is not a passive reception of an external reality, it is an active process of co-creating that reality. This idea places immense responsibility on the individual. If our thoughts help shape our world, then we must become masters of our own minds. The Corpus Hermeticum urges the student to turn away from chaotic, negative, and ignorant thinking, which keeps the soul trapped in a limited and painful reality. Instead, the seeker is encouraged to cultivate thoughts of truth, beauty, and goodness, aligning their personal mind with the divine universal mind. This mental discipline was not just a form of positive thinking, it was a core spiritual practice aimed at purifying one's consciousness in order to perceive a higher, more divine reality that is always present but often obscured by our own mental static. This concept of a mental universe has echoed through centuries of philosophy and spirituality. It can be seen in the idealist philosophies that argue consciousness is primary and matter is secondary. It also forms the basis of many modern New Age and self-help movements that emphasize the power of intention and visualization to manifest one's desires. The Hermetic teaching, however, frames this power within a deeply spiritual context. The goal was not simply to create a better material life, but to use the creative power of the mind to achieve gnosis, to know oneself as a divine thinker, a co-creator with the all, and ultimately to merge one's consciousness back into its divine source. The ultimate purpose of understanding principles like as above, so below, and the all is mind, was to achieve a state called gnosis. Now, this Greek word does not simply mean ordinary knowledge like learning facts from a book. Instead, it means a direct, intuitive, and transformative knowing that comes from personal experience. Gnosis is that moment of profound realization when a person directly perceives their own divine nature and their true relationship with God and the cosmos. The Corpus Hermeticum is, above all, a guide to attaining this state of spiritual awakening. It promises that this special kind of knowing is what ultimately saves and liberates the human spirit from the cycle of ignorance and suffering. This path to salvation is deeply personal and internal. The Hermetic teachings suggest that humanity has forgotten its divine origin. We have become so mesmerized by the physical world and the sensations of the body that we have fallen asleep to our true spiritual selves. The soul, which is a spark of the divine light, is portrayed as being trapped or imprisoned in the darkness of the material body. The dialogues of Hermes Trismegistus are designed to act as a wake-up call. They're meant to stir the memory of the soul, reminding it of its home in the higher spiritual realms and showing it the way to return there, a journey that begins with turning the focus of the mind inward. The process of achieving gnosis involves a conscious turning away from the distractions of the material world and a dedicated focus on contemplation and self-reflection. It's a journey of purification where the seeker must learn to control their thoughts, emotions, and desires, which are seen as clouds that obscure the inner light of the divine mind, or nous. By studying the nature of reality and meditating on the Hermetic teachings, the student gradually raises their consciousness. They begin to see through the illusion of separation and to experience the interconnectedness of all things. This leads to a profound shift in identity, from seeing oneself as a mortal body to knowing oneself as an immortal divine soul. This promise of spiritual freedom through knowledge was a powerful and liberating message. It offered a path to enlightenment that was accessible to anyone willing to undertake the inner work, without the need for external saviors or institutional authorities. Salvation was not something granted from the outside, but something achieved from within. The final goal described in the Corpus Hermeticum is a state of ecstatic union with God, where the individual's soul merges back into the universal mind from which it came. This was the ultimate homecoming, the fulfillment of the human purpose, and the secret knowledge that the book promised to reveal to all who sincerely sought it. The vibrant world that gave birth to the Corpus Hermeticum did not last forever. As the Roman Empire began to change, so did its spiritual landscape. A new religion, Christianity, was on the rise, and its influence grew steadily across the empire. The early Christian church fathers were often hostile to the pagan philosophies and mystery schools that had flourished for centuries. They saw texts like the Corpus Hermeticum as rivals to their own teachings, branding them as heretical or dangerous. As Christianity became the dominant state religion, the old ways were suppressed. Pagan temples were closed, their schools were shut down, and their sacred texts were often neglected, hidden away, or even destroyed, marking the beginning of a long silence. For about 1,000 years, the Corpus Hermeticum effectively vanished from the Western world. The wisdom of Hermes Trismegistus, which had once inspired seekers across the Roman Empire, fell into a deep slumber. The texts were not entirely lost, but they were no longer part of the mainstream conversation in Europe. They survived only in the quiet corners of the world, preserved in faraway libraries in the Byzantine Empire to the east and within the Islamic world, where scholars continued to study and value ancient Greek texts. In Europe, however, its memory faded. The name of Hermes Trismegistus was still known, but the actual writings were mostly inaccessible, becoming little more than a whisper of a forgotten age. Imagine this vast period of time, stretching from the fall of Rome to the dawn of the Renaissance. During these long centuries, Europe underwent massive changes, but the direct influence of Hermetic philosophy was largely absent. It was a period dominated by a different worldview, one that drew a sharper line between God and creation, and between faith and reason. The Hermetic idea of finding God within oneself and within nature was replaced by a system that emphasized faith in church doctrine and the authority of its institutions. The intimate, personal path to gnosis described in the Hermetic dialogues was lost, waiting patiently in hidden manuscripts for a new era that would be ready to hear its message once again. The survival of the Corpus Hermeticum through this long, dark millennium is nothing short of remarkable. It depended on the careful work of scribes in monasteries and libraries who painstakingly copied the ancient Greek manuscripts. Perhaps not always fully understanding their content, but recognizing their value as artifacts of a bygone era. These precious copies, passed from hand to hand over generations, became time capsules, holding the potent ideas of Hermes Trismegistus in suspended animation. They were sleeping giants holding a spiritual technology that was poised to make a dramatic and unexpected comeback, ready to re-emerge when the cultural climate of Europe began to shift once more toward a renewed interest in the ancient world. The great rediscovery of the Corpus Hermeticum happened in the 15th century, a time of incredible cultural rebirth in Europe known as the Renaissance. In the bustling city of Florence, Italy, a powerful and wealthy banker named Cosimo de' Medici was a passionate collector of ancient manuscripts. He sent his agents across the world in search of lost classical texts, hoping to reclaim the wisdom of the ancients. Around the year 1460, one of his agents returned from Macedonia with a remarkable prize: a nearly complete Greek manuscript containing 14 of the 17 treatises of the Corpus Hermeticum. It was a moment that would change the course of Western intellectual history forever, bringing the sleeping giant out of its thousand-year slumber. Cosimo de' Medici understood the importance of what he had found. He entrusted the precious manuscript to a brilliant young scholar in his Florentine academy named Marsilio Ficino. Ficino was already busy translating the complete works of the great Greek philosopher Plato, a monumental task in itself. But Cosimo, who was old and felt his life was nearing its end, gave Ficino a direct and urgent command. He told him to put Plato aside and immediately translate the Hermetic texts first. Cosimo believed that Hermes Trismegistus was a real Egyptian priest who lived long before Plato, and therefore, his wisdom was more ancient, more pure, and more essential. Ficino obeyed his patron's wishes. Working with great speed and dedication, Marsilio Ficino completed the Latin translation of the Corpus Hermeticum in 1463. This was a pivotal event. While the original Greek manuscript could only be read by a handful of elite scholars, a Latin translation made the teachings accessible to the entire intellectual community of Europe, as Latin was the universal language of scholarship at the time. The publication of Ficino's translation caused an immediate and explosive sensation. It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck the heart of the Renaissance. The book was a runaway success, printed and reprinted many times over, spreading rapidly across the continent. The timing of its reappearance was perfect. Renaissance thinkers were already fascinated with rediscovering the classical past of Greece and Rome. The Corpus Hermeticum arrived on the scene and seemed to offer something even more profound, a direct link to the pristine divine wisdom of ancient Egypt, which was held in very high esteem. It presented a philosophy that beautifully blended spirituality, reason, and a reverence for nature. This was exactly what many Renaissance minds were searching for. It offered a spiritual path that was compatible with their growing humanism and their renewed interest in the natural world, and it felt like a key that could unlock the deepest secrets of both God and humanity. The rediscovery of the Corpus Hermeticum was a catalyst for the Renaissance, inspiring thinkers, artists, and scientists across Europe. Its vision of humanity as divine and creative resonated with the era's humanism, empowering people to see themselves as co-creators of the universe. Philosophers like Pico della Mirandola embraced the idea that humans could ascend or descend through free will, while artists found new meaning in the natural world as a reflection of divine harmony. The text fueled the rise of alchemy, astrology, and natural magic, blending mysticism with practical inquiry. Early Renaissance scholars saw Hermeticism as compatible with Christianity, believing it revealed universal truths that predated and supported their faith. This shift encouraged a new approach to nature, one that valued observation, mathematics, and personal experience, laying the groundwork for the scientific revolution. The Corpus Hermeticum, once lost, returned as a powerful force, reshaping Europe's understanding of God, humanity, and the cosmos. The Corpus Hermeticum's influence quickly moved from philosophy to the hands-on world of alchemists and early scientists. Alchemists saw their quest to transform metals as both a physical and spiritual journey, guided by the Hermetic maxim, "as above, so below." Their laboratories became microcosms of the universe where purifying matter mirrored the purification of the soul. The search for the Philosopher's Stone was as much about enlightenment as it was about gold. Early scientists like Kepler, inspired by Hermetic ideas, sought hidden mathematical harmony in the cosmos, believing the universe was a rational, knowable system. This worldview bridged faith and reason, encouraging the belief that nature's secrets could be unlocked through observation and mathematics. The Hermetic tradition gave early science its confidence and sense of purpose. Even as science evolved, its roots in Hermetic thought remained, connecting the spiritual and the empirical. As official tolerance waned, Hermetic wisdom found refuge in secret societies like the Rosicrucians and Freemasons. These groups blended Hermetic philosophy with Christian mysticism and alchemical symbolism, creating paths of personal transformation and hidden knowledge. Membership was selective, with teachings passed through initiation, preserving Hermetic ideas from mainstream suppression. Freemasonry in particular echoed Hermetic themes, building a spiritual temple using geometry as metaphor and seeking enlightenment. These societies became guardians of the Hermetic tradition, emphasizing unity of spirit and matter self-knowledge and the pursuit of universal truths. Through rituals and symbols, they kept the voice of Hermes alive, offering seekers a transformative philosophy. In quiet lodges and secret chambers, Hermetic wisdom endured, shaping individuals and quietly the world. The Hermetic legacy didn't fade, it evolved, echoing into modern spirituality and pop culture. The 19th and 20th centuries saw a revival in groups like Theosophy and the Golden Dawn, who placed Hermetic teachings at their core. The phrase, "as above, so below," became a staple of New Age thought, symbolizing the connection between personal experience and cosmic order. Hermetic ideas now fuel self-help philosophies, promising that changing your mind can change your reality. Though often simplified, the core message remains. Consciousness shapes experience, and meaning can be found in the patterns of life. From novels to movies, the themes of hidden knowledge and interconnectedness continue to captivate us. The Corpus Hermeticum is part of our intellectual DNA, a timeless call to seek meaning and connection in the universe. Myths have long surrounded the Corpus Hermeticum, from claims of its origins in lost civilizations to the belief it was written by a single sage. For centuries, people imagined it as the last relic of Atlantis or the work of Hermes Trismegistus himself, lending it an aura of divine authority. Modern scholarship, however, dates the text to Roman Egypt, between 100 and 300 CE, ancient but not prehistoric. The idea of a single author was a Renaissance invention. In reality, the corpus is an anthology by multiple anonymous writers. These Greek-speaking Egyptians wrote under the name Hermes to give their work ancient credibility. Recognizing its true origins doesn't diminish its power, it reveals a vibrant spiritual movement rather than a lone revelation. The real story is one of shared wisdom, not solitary genius. Understanding the facts lets us appreciate the Corpus Hermeticum as a living current in the river of human thought. Debunking these myths might seem like it would diminish the value of the Corpus Hermeticum, but for many, it does the opposite. Knowing that the book was written not by a single godman in a mythical age, but by a community of human seekers in a specific historical period, can make it feel more accessible and relatable. These were real people, living in a complex and changing world much like our own, who were grappling with life's biggest questions. They were striving to find meaning, connection, and a path to the divine. Their writings are a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit to search for truth and to articulate a vision of hope and unity. The fact that the book is not 10,000 years old does not invalidate its wisdom. Its core teachings, about the interconnectedness of the cosmos, the creative power of the mind, and the possibility of spiritual liberation through self-knowledge, are timeless. These ideas resonate with human experience regardless of their specific date of origin. The power of the Hermetic message does not depend on it being the oldest text in the world. Its power lies in its ability to inspire and awaken something within the reader. It speaks to a deep, archetypal truth about the human condition and our innate desire to feel at one with the universe, a truth that is just as relevant today as it was 1800 years ago. Even though it was not written by people from Atlantis, the Corpus Hermeticum does offer a kind of secret knowledge. The secret it reveals is not about lost continents or ancient technologies. The secret is that the universe is not a cold, dead place but a living, conscious and divine entity. It teaches that we are not insignificant specks in a meaningless cosmos, but are integral parts of this divine being carrying a spark of its creative fire within our own minds. This is a profoundly transformative and inspiring message. It reframes our entire existence, turning life from a random accident into a purposeful journey of discovery and reunion with our divine source. Ultimately, separating the myths from the facts allows us to appreciate the Corpus Hermeticum for what it truly is, a beautiful and powerful collection of spiritual philosophy from the ancient world. It is a monument to a time when people saw no contradiction between science and spirituality, between reason and revelation. Its enduring appeal lies in its simple, direct and empowering message of unity. It reminds us that the macrocosm and the microcosm are reflections of each other, and that the key to unlocking the secrets of the universe lies hidden within the depths of the human soul, waiting to be rediscovered by anyone who has the courage to look. Our journey through the world of the Corpus Hermeticum reveals a profound truth about the nature of ideas themselves. It shows us how a collection of spiritual dialogues written nearly 2 millennia ago in a world vastly different from our own can possess a power that transcends time, culture, and language. The story of this book is a testament to the resilience of wisdom. It survived a 1,000-year sleep, hidden away in forgotten libraries, only to re-emerge with explosive force and help reshape the intellectual and spiritual landscape of Europe. Its journey demonstrates that some ideas are so fundamental to the human experience that they can never truly be lost, but will always find a way to resurface when humanity is ready to hear them again. The teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, whether about the mirrored relationship between the cosmos and the self, or the creative power of the mind, speak to a deep and timeless human yearning. They address our innate desire to find meaning in a vast universe, to feel connected to something larger than our individual lives, and to believe in our own potential for growth and transformation. The Corpus Hermeticum provided and continues to provide a framework for this quest. It offers a vision of a universe that is not cold and indifferent but is instead a living, breathing, and conscious entity with which we are intimately and beautifully entangled, a message of profound hope and cosmic significance. This ancient text serves as a powerful reminder that history is not just a linear progression of new ideas replacing old ones. It is a complex tapestry where ancient threads are constantly being rewoven into new patterns. The Hermetic worldview, with its blend of scientific curiosity and spiritual reverence, challenges our modern tendency to place reason and faith into separate, often conflicting categories. It invites us to consider a more holistic approach where the observation of the natural world and the exploration of our inner consciousness are not opposing activities, but are two complementary paths leading to the same ultimate truth, revealing the divine mind in both the stars above and the soul within. Reflecting on the long and influential life of the Corpus Hermeticum, we see the remarkable power of a single idea to ripple through the centuries. From the alchemists seeking spiritual gold to the astronomers mapping God's celestial geometry, and from the secret societies preserving a hidden stream of wisdom to the modern seekers finding solace in its timeless axioms, the voice of Hermes has never truly fallen silent. It continues to echo because it speaks of unity in a world that often feels fractured, of purpose in a world that can seem random, and of the divine spark that lies dormant within every human being, waiting for the call to awaken. As we conclude our exploration, the Corpus Hermeticum leaves us with a provocative and deeply personal question, one that has been debated by mystics and philosophers for ages. The book presents itself as a form of secret knowledge, a gnosis that promises to liberate the soul. This raises a fundamental dilemma about the nature of such profound wisdom. If you were to discover a truth that you believed could fundamentally change a person's understanding of themselves and the universe, would you feel compelled to keep that knowledge hidden, sharing it only with a select few who you deem ready? Or would you believe that such a powerful truth belongs to everyone and should be shared freely with the entire world? The argument for secrecy often stems from a place of protection. The Hermetic texts themselves were designed for initiates, suggesting that such powerful ideas could be misunderstood, misused, or even dangerous in the hands of those who are not spiritually or mentally prepared. Keeping knowledge hidden could be seen as a way of preserving its purity and ensuring it is not trivialized or distorted by the masses. This path honors the wisdom by treating it as a sacred treasure, to be unveiled slowly and carefully, guiding students step by step to prevent them from stumbling on a path for which they are not yet equipped, ensuring the integrity of the transmission across generations. On the other hand, the impulse to share knowledge with everyone is rooted in a deep sense of compassion and a belief in universal potential. This perspective argues that every human being has a right to access truths that could lead to their own liberation and happiness. To withhold such knowledge could be seen as an act of elitism, creating an artificial division between the enlightened and the ignorant. Sharing wisdom openly could spark a wider transformation of consciousness, uplifting all of society by making the tools for spiritual growth accessible to anyone who feels the call to begin their journey, regardless of their background or station in life. This is the path of the universal teacher. Ultimately, the Corpus Hermeticum does not give us a final answer, but instead invites us to ponder this choice. It is a question that every generation of seekers must answer for itself. The journey of this ancient book, from a hidden secret to a world-changing force and back again, shows that both paths have been walked. As we move forward in our own search for meaning, we are left to consider our own relationship with the truths we uncover. Do we guard them closely, or do we cast them out into the world like seeds on the wind? Thank you for joining us on this journey into ancient wisdom.